Hello, everybody. Welcome along. My name is Benjamin Bloom. This is the Benjamin Bloom Football Channel. Please leave your bias at the door and join us for a hastily convened live stream because we are reacting to the news that Valérien Ismaël has just been fired by West Brom. I will have my say. Please get your thoughts in via the comments and we will see what the mood is after another Championship manager is fired. And the second of the 3 year one parachute teams now to fire their manager after Sheffield United got rid of Slavisa Jokanovic. Please hit the like in the stream and hopefully we can grow the viewership as we go. But we are jumping right in and reacting to this, a big story developing in the Championship over on the West Brom website. This is only 11 minutes old. Not a great deal being said. So let me just get rid of that drop down menu if I can do that. There we go. So yeah, of pretty much 11 minutes ago, West Bromwich Albion Football Club can confirm Valérien Ismaël has today left his position as head coach. Assistant head coach Adam Murray, who he brought with him obviously from Barnsley, has also departed the Hawthorns. The club would like to place on record its thanks to Valérien and Adam for their efforts and best wishes. Wishes them well in the future. The process of recruiting a new head coach is now underway and an appointment will be announced in due course. How about that? Get your comments in as we go. I'll have my say. And don't worry, we will read your comments and I'm sure plenty of them will be arriving, as I can see indeed there. Now, let's just bring up the current Championship table so you can see the state of things right now for West Brom. And I hate to say, I told you so, but we've been saying on this channel for a long time, the last guy sacked by West Brom in the Championship was Darren Moore. Darren Moore got fired when West Brom were in receipt of parachute payments and they got themselves 9 points adrift of the automatic promotion chase. This was in 2019. I was actually at Darren Moore's last game because it was against Ipswich, if I'm remembering correctly. Go figure. West Brom are currently 9 points adrift, or rather they ended up 9 points adrift of Blackburn in second place with, how many games have we got to go? 17 games to play in this year's Championship table. So some eerie echoes, and it looks very much like the standard at West Brom is if you are managing at West Brom and the club are in receipt of parachute payments, this ownership will fire you if you're close to the end of the season. Moore was a little bit closer. I think it was maybe, I don't know, someone will tell me in the chat, 3, 4, 5, 6 games further on, possibly. I'm trying to remember. But if you go 9 points below automatic, out the door you go, apparently. So that is the state of play in terms of West Brom. Let's talk a little bit about Ismaël, who it's been an absolute whirlwind in the Championship for Ismaël, who came in sort of, I don't know, September, October of last season at Barnsley. Gerhard Struber had been their manager. And we all know what happened. He went in at Barnsley and they literally flew up the table. There was a 8-win streak in a row and they ended up finishing 5th and lost in the playoffs to Swansea. And of course, the style was 3 up top, massive press. He loved the 5 substitutes, didn't he? He would often bring out his entire front 3 sort of an hour into a game, bring in a new one, keep pressing, direct, hit the front man, set plays, all of that good stuff. And in 2021, it worked a treat in the Championship because we always have direct teams in the Championship. That's no bad thing. But Ismaël did it completely full on. Now, on the basis of this, wasn't even a whole season at Barnsley, was it? It was, I don't know, 4/5 of a season, 3/4 of a season, something like that. On the basis of that, West Brom, who were relegated last season from the Premier League, Big Sam went in there after Slaven Bilic went out. Are you following? I hope you are. hope I'm getting it all right. Slaven Bilic went out and Big Sam came in. He could not keep West Brom up. They went down. Big Sam was not going to stay for the Championship. I suspect he's still hanging out for a Premier League job somewhere along the line. And ISMAEL was taken from Barnsley at some expense, we think. We know there was compensation paid. And in he went to West Brom at the start of this season. And also, we've already mentioned Adam Murray, also brought with him Alex Mowat, who was the Barnsley captain. And very, very recently in this transfer window, we think, and we don't know the exact terms of the deal, but we think Daryl Dike cost, or there's a liability over the years of his contract for West Brom to pay sort of 7 or 8 million quid for Daryl Dike, who is so closely linked with ISMAEL because he was there with him at Barnsley last season. So Dike has arrived to solve the problems that we'll talk about in just a jiffy at West Brom. And now, sort of one day, it's one day after one full day after the transfer window has closed, ISMAEL is out, and West Brom, I don't know what their outlook is here. Whether they're looking at this season, and Bournemouth have done exactly the same thing. This season is different to last season. Last season, Norwich were firing on all cylinders. Watford got second. There were your two parachute teams. You had Cooper at Swansea, and Brentford were as good as a parachute team with their recruitment in terms of their ability to compete. This season, it's different. We've got Blackburn and QPR in a very real chase above West Brom. Bournemouth obviously fancy their chances, and they've backed very, very heavily. Are West Brom fancying their chances of competing? As I said, they're 9 points off for top two this season, or are they bringing someone in next season? Obviously, again, there'll be another 3 parachute year one teams coming in. Are they now prepping this up for next season, or is it playoffs for West Brom? Whatever they're doing it without Valérien Ismaël. Let me just bring this up. I just searched this up on who scored just before we started the stream. And very, very annoyingly, I'm going to have to do it all over again. But I will very quickly tap in from the 6th of November and we'll draw up a league table, because that's the point, essentially, where West Brom stopped winning under Big Val. Now, have I got that up on the other screen? Keep your comments, guys. Keep hitting that thumbs up button. Can I do a highlight? I think I can. There you go. 15th position, West Brom, over the, so 6th of November, December, January, February. So pretty much the last 3 months of form, West Brom have been the 15th best team in the division. And you can see there's plenty of teams that have played fewer games. That form as well, 14 points in the last 13 games, is not, ultimately you will slip out of the playoffs and not even make that if that continues. And of course, look at the goals scored. Only Barnsley and Peterborough have scored fewer goals than West Brom since November the 6th. Obviously, Blackburn and Fulham are pretty mental there. Fulham have got 31. But the overriding problem there at West Brom was that they couldn't stick the ball in the net. And we can give you, I'm sure, plenty of statistics that tell us other parts of their game were okay, particularly their defence. But in terms of sticking the ball in the back of the net, it just wasn't happening for ISMAEL. He went for Jordan Hugill at the start of the season, and it just did not work with Hugill, and it has not worked with ISMAEL. Let me just go back to that who scored screen. You can see Championship top teams there. West Brom, they appear in the booking ratings. They appear in the aerial duel ratings. But look at the shots per game. That's the interesting one, if you can see that. West Brom, only Fulham have more shots per game than West Brom this season. But as you can imagine, the goal scoring totals are absolute chalk and cheese. I think last week, I don't know how it's changed. West Brom, because that's obviously adjusted for, that's an average figure, had more shots than Fulham this season, obviously having played a game more. But yeah, you can see Fulham over twice as many goals. So for whatever reason, it just has not worked out for Valérien Ismaël at West Brom. I'd be interested in hearing your theories. We've sort of heard it suggested by, commenters through the season that his style of play was maybe better suited to a team punching upwards, maybe an underdog, like Barnsley, I guess, were last season. I don't know. He's been fired very, very quickly after only, what is the number? It is, 29 games in the job. But the mood I was receiving from West Brom fans was they weren't happy. And maybe there's something in that underdog thing, because teams weren't afraid of Barnsley, particularly for the first 2/3 of last season, were they? Whereas teams look like they've figured out how to play against West Brom, particularly recently. Let's just bang through the results. We can literally do the whole thing, because if you look down the bottom there on SofaScore, he actually started well. You can see, 10 points in the first 4 games. Flew out of the box. If I skip to the next screen, you can see the winning kind of stops there. And it is that 6th of November point. I don't know what happened exactly then, but they just stop doing the business, don't they, West Brom, at that point in the season. Couple of wins there, back-to-back. One at Coventry. I remember the goal going in off Kipre's hand in that game as well, didn't it? Or lead into the goal, whatever happened there. A win over Reading, but Reading are hardly pulling up trees at the moment. And then very, very poor recently. Look, defeat to Derby, a draw against Cardiff. Forget the FA Cup for a second, lost to West Brom. Big win over Peterborough, but Peterborough have been very, very poor away from home. Then 2-0 defeat at home to Preston. And at the weekend, another 2-0 defeat. So you can see in those last 6 games, if you take the Peterborough game out of it, and he actually scored 1 goal in the remainder of those 5 games, and there's 4 shutouts as well. Just not working for Big Val, who has got a good squad, as you can imagine, from a year 1 parachute team. Can I make that smaller so that fits all on one screen? Can you guys see all of that? Yeah, you can. So look, there's an England goalkeeper there. Sam Johnston, obviously Matt Clark's come in on loan from Brighton, hasn't he? Bartley's always been good at this level. Ajayi's been promoted before, as of a lot of these players, with Bilic, maybe Furlong Townsend, decent wing backs there. Mowat was obviously his captain at Barnsley, with Livermore and Mulumby coming in on loan as well. And then up top, DK's injured, but Callum Robinson, Andy Carroll's recently come in. Carlin Grant, both Carlin Grant and Callum Robinson are players that were doing well in the Championship for Preston and Huddersfield and taken there. And Grady Diangana, I don't know what indeed has happened to him, so to speak, but he was brilliant in the promotion under Slaven Bilic with Matthias Pereira, where West Brom didn't really have a striker who scored, did they? It was all Pereira and Diangana doing everything. And I don't know, Hal Robson, Carnu, Charlie Austin got a few goals. Ken Zahor didn't work out, did it? So anyway, I'm going back in time. Valérien Ismaël has been sacked. Who they get in now, I do not have a clue. What I would say is the squad, the few signings that have kind of been made are pretty much Ismaël players. I'll try and bring up a list for you in the background here. But in the main, I would argue that squad is fairly malleable, that it's not a case of, the person that goes in at West Brom can only do one thing, and that was what Ismaël was doing. They had kind of pivoted their style anyway, hadn't they? Not that far, because obviously Big Sam is quite the pragmatist, but not quite as aggressive as Ismaël is with his sort of pressing and long ball stuff. There you go. So this season, DK, Mowat, Reach, Carroll obviously very recently, Clark, Hugel, well, he's come and gone, and Mulumby. And if you look down, they've cashed in big style on Matthias Pereira, Higazi, Harper, look, Gibbs, Austin, Grzycki, Edwards, Peltier, Lonergan, Field, Sawyers has been loaned out, and Robson Kanu and Ivanovic left at the start of the season. So what I'm saying is that it's a good squad, certainly by championship terms, isn't it? Maybe not Premier League terms, and hence that's why West Brom are not there in the Premier League anymore. But I think my key point is it's not a squad where if you did want to go in and tweak the style to something slightly different than what Big Val has done, then you could, couldn't you? It's not beyond the realms of possibility. I'm trying to think who is available in terms of managers. Get your shouts in via the comments on that one. What I will do is I'm just going to bring back up the championship table just so we can do a quick total of managers to have gone this season. And if I scan my eyes down there now, obviously West Brom, ISMAEL today, Middlesbrough, Warnock went, didn't he? Forest, Houghton went, Sheffield United, Jokanovic went, and that isn't the other 2 of 3 year one parachute teams have fired their manager now. Preston, McAvoy went, Bristol City, Birmingham, Hull, McCann went, Cardiff, McCarthy went, and Barnsley, Shop went. ISMAEL's former club. 8 managers now have been fired, and yeah, no one's done 2, have they? Yet we haven't had that craziness so far. But so 8 managers. So that now means 1/3 of the championship clubs have fired their manager, and we're pretty much 2/3 of the way through the season. My opinion before I go to the comments is yes, it's a quick turnaround. I'm not going to be one of these people who looks. Sometimes we get this, don't we? Particularly people look from the outside and they just look at the league table and they go, "Oh, West Brom are 5th, and there's a chance they could go up." Well, that's true. West Brom are 5th, but if you look at the direction of travel of QPR and Blackburn, and Bournemouth have just really pushed in the transfer window, plus Middlesbrough, Forest. There's Luton have just shot up the table as well, and Huddersfield, and you continue what ISMAEL's doing, then it's all very well sitting here now and saying they're 5th. But if everything kind of moves in a similar direction than it is at the moment, they will not finish in the playoffs. And of course, there is clearly, as I said at the top of the stream, there is clearly form for West Brom with the Darren Moore example of being 9 points off automatic. There is form for them making a change in this kind of situation. That change, you would argue, did and didn't work out last time, because last time they took James Sharn to the end of the season, but they came up against Aston Villa in the playoffs and lost in the semi-finals, didn't they? I mean, Dwight Gale got red carded in that first leg and missed the second leg. And obviously Harvey Barnes had been recalled earlier in the season. And that Barnes, Gale and Rodriguez sort of trio up the top would have maybe had a better chance against Grealish and Mings and Abraham at Aston Villa. Obviously, they went heavy on Slaven Bilic the next season in terms of bringing in an experienced ex-international coach, and up they went in the COVID season, didn't they? West Brom. So, look, it is what it is, and I guess it worked. They got promoted before the parachute payments ran out, which is the main thing, I guess, in terms of the financial imperative. And we are, of course, West Brom were only up for 1 season, so they only get 2 years of the parachute payment. So we are kind of at the tipping point in that regard. It's almost like you go now if you're not happy with ISMAEL, or you go through the whole 2 years with him, and they've chosen not to do that. So I'm tiptoeing around saying it, but I don't believe you can look just at the league table and say, and these are the 2 things people look at. They look at the league table and they look at how long the person's been in charge. And yes, okay, he's not been in charge long. And yes, they're 5th in the league table. But neither of those things mean if you kept him in there longer, that him being in there longer would have improved things. If it's bust, it's bust. And if the players aren't buying in or what have you, I don't know that. I'm not in the dressing room or at the training ground. There's no guarantee that things would improve. Sometimes leaving things alone, yes, they do improve. But I would suggest, on the basis at the moment, if we make a big assumption that Fulham are definitely going to take one of the two automatic places, and then you've essentially got all those teams I listed for one auto place and one playoff place: Blackburn, Bournemouth, QPR, West Brom, Middlesbrough, Huddersfield, Forest, Luton. You could get a run from Sheffield United. You could get a run from Stoke. Who knows? Are West Brom at the moment favourite to take one of those two spots, one auto or one playoff? I don't think so. No, not the way they're playing. And we brought up that table that from November the 6th over the past 3 months, they are 13th. So it's very much, not even top half form at the moment. So as much as I like Big Val, and I loved it last season, and I love a bit of tactical diversity, you've got no problem with a team playing direct and pressing and all of that stuff. It hasn't worked, and I do kind of understand the decision. And when you factor in probably the comments we're about to read and my chats with Baggies fans recently, they weren't happy with it. And you know what it's like with pragmatic, it's not necessarily pragmatic in a sit behind the ball, but percentages football, isn't it? Direct football can be. It's, can you spend as much time in the other half as you can? And it's often forcing mistakes from the opponents, isn't it? It's, if you do bombard the opponent, can you force that mistake in the end? So let me know several things in the comments. I'm going to get to them right now. What went wrong for Big Val? Do you think it's the right decision and the right timing, etc.? And also, who's next? Who's available? Who could possibly come in and turn around this season, or this project, in theory, as in a 2-year project, to get West Brom up? Let's have a look here and see what you guys are saying. Guys, I've just been notified there's 130 comments, so my apologies. There's probably loads of really, really good ones further up. I'm going to go from the bottom. So do feel free, if you want to get your comment read out, to just copy and paste it and stick it back in, and I'll read as many as I can. Leon, they 100% shouldn't offer another manager. Did he have a 4-year contract? Oh my God. So this is going to have been very expensive for West Brom. But I suppose the argument is that not getting back up to the Premier League would be very expensive as well. West Brom have just announced a new CEO. When was that? Is this his first decision? Is that what you're telling me from this? Stubbornness and yes, was the right timing in terms of those two questions. Difficult sell now. Window has closed to meet expectations. Maybe. Daniel Farker, unfortunately, has just gone in with Krasnodar, hasn't he? But I don't know. Would he jump quickly? Obviously, Daniel Farker played beautiful football. That would obviously be a project to get that style of football, and got promoted twice, didn't he? Come back to Tarn. I thought we'd get a couple of these. There you go. Talk to me about it, Barnsley fans. Would you welcome Big Val straight back in at Barnsley, as it all worked out? New CEO, and the owner has become the... What? Interesting. Is this on the website? I'm just going to dive back to the West Brom website, because I think there's actually more to this by the sounds of it. If there's... Ron Gourlay. Wasn't he at Chelsea? Right, sorry. Let me just... I'm moving as quickly as I can on this. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. Sorry, breaking news. We have another new wrinkle to this. Ron Gourlay has just been named new CEO. Let me just... Sorry, I've got the wrong page up there. We can just click off that one. This is very interesting. Literally breaking right now. Wow. Okay, so Ron Gourlay has been confirmed as CEO. Gourlay arrives at the Hawthorns, Man United, Reading and Chelsea. He replaces Shu Qi as CEO and will oversee day-to-day. We've got some quotes. I'm sure there won't be anything interesting here. Proud and honoured. During my short time here as a consultant, I have seen and felt the disconnect between the club and its supporters. I will work tirelessly to read... Bit of a dig straight off the bat, isn't it? At boardroom level, I intend to appoint directors with a wealth of football and business experience who will have the knowledge and commitment required to take the club forward. Our aim in both the short term and long term is to be in the Premier League. My immediate priority now is to appoint a new head coach following the departure of Valérien Ismaël. I would personally like to thank Val. So put it this way, Ron Gourlay is not going to be on Big Val's Christmas card list because it sounds like he's been brought in as a consultant. And what it sounds very much like is his consultancy role was, do you think Val is the right guy? And Gourlay, look, I don't know this, but it sounds like a Ron Gourlay call to fire Valérien Ismaël. So a very, very big call. I'm speculating on that. I don't, I'm not in the offices at West Brom, but it sounds very, very much like that has been the case. In comes Gourlay as a consultant, out goes Ismaël, and immediately Gourlay steps in as CEO. If we've got any fans of Reading particularly and Chelsea, do let me know. Chelsea CEO from 2009 to 2014. Now, let's keep the balance because more often than not, when somebody has left the football club, the fans of that club universally criticise them because they're not there anymore. But it is possible for someone to leave a club and you don't have to criticise them. Obviously, where Reading are now, whether there's any link to Gourlay or not, I wouldn't know. I'd plead the fifth on that one. But look, he's very, very experienced and he's worked at some big clubs and done some big jobs as well. Thank you for letting me know all of that stuff. Let's keep moving through the comments here. Jack, Val needed to go. Tactics not bought into by the players. New CEO and owner becoming chairman signifies a few in the boardroom just fell on their sword. Can't disagree with any of that. I guess being level on points for Huddersfield is not. No, absolutely not. Negative style of play, says Owen. Poor results, terrible performances, inability to adapt, falling out with players. Apart from that, it was brilliant. There we go. Look, didn't he ruin Reading? I'll need to do some research on that. As I say, universally, when particularly a CEO leaves a club, because let's be honest, a CEO never leaves a club when they're doing well, do they? Universally, it's criticism they receive. And there's, I'm not accusing Reading fans of this. We've had no feedback whatsoever. But my experience is that these people are often criticised without necessarily everybody knowing exactly what they did or what decisions they were responsible for. But there we go. Whoever goes in there needs to get their way of playing in the team very quickly. Oh, yes, they do. Too stubborn, says David. Livermore and Mowat. Loyalty to those guys, inability to change tactics. He was very much all in on his style. Reading fans shudder at his name. Lai becoming chairman makes it clear he wishes to remain at the club, likely because he wants a good return on investment. Yes, they need to be back in the Premier League. A split amongst Barnsley fans on Val. A lot wouldn't be too keen. There you go. Do you think John Terry gets approached then? Well, there you go. There's a link from Ron Gourlay to John Terry. Personally, I'm quite enjoying Lampard, Gerrard, Rooney. Terry obviously needs to start somewhere and he's been at Villa. So there we go. Reading fans can't stand Gourlay, but jumping on him before he's done anything is harsh. Well, yes, that will obviously happen. Though, I think to sack a manager after a transfer window is daft. Perhaps. You know, the argument spells if they'd sacked him before, people would be even more focused. They would say, oh, he needed another window. But my argument always is, look, if it's not working, then too soon is not too soon, is it? So, and we don't know what was going in there. Get me some names in. Who do you think would be a good fit in there at West Brom? Obviously, we've had the John Terry link, which now makes sense if Ron Gourlay is there. Terry, look, we don't know on John Terry because he's never done it before. Could be brilliant, could be bad. You just don't know, do you? Us at Watford did a similar thing last year with Ivic and it worked out for us. Yeah, that's very, very true. In terms of Watford last season. Brucey, yeah, he's going to be back, isn't he? 1-2 favourite with Sky Bet, I guess that is. Steve Bruce, look, he's done it before, hasn't he? He's not a lovely big name, but in terms of the Championship, he's taken, how many teams has he taken up? Hull, Birmingham. Is there 3 with Brucey? I can't remember. There we go. Guys, if you are saying no to a manager, either tell me why or suggest who, because I can't really do anything with a comment that just says no to someone. We need a bit more meat on the bone. There, Jukanovic, he's available. And again, he's got promotions. Didn't work out. Really, really didn't work out at Sheffield United in the worst way. Slav back, or take Slav, or Mowbray back. Yeah, he was there before. Fans would be against Bruce before he's... Well, that's every club Bruce goes to apparently now, isn't it? So there's the first Warnock shout. You love to see it, don't you? You absolutely love to see it. Grant McCann is available. I'm not sure he'd get a parachute team yet, but there you go. No to John Terry because no experience. Yeah, that's fine if that's the way the owners want to do it. I personally think that people should be brought to interview, and look, you've got to get experience from. You've got to have your first job at somewhere. Sometimes that's not to say that West Brom, half a season into 2 years parachute payments, is the right place for someone to take their first job. So yeah, Thomas may have a point there. Brucey going from Birmingham to Villa, then Baggies. That'd be something, wouldn't he? Tony Pulis, he's been there before. We're getting the names up here. Derek McInnes, Jose. Imagine Jose in the Championship. No, I can't, but there you go. Slav, a good fit. We'll get the best out of the players. They got the magic 45 points, so they're safe. There you go, indeed. Brucey had 2 promotions at Blues. There you go. Steve Clark, didn't he manage? He managed Baggies before, didn't he? So, yeah, I can see plenty of different theories as to who would be good. Do you take someone who's not experienced and give them the keys to it? It's a good job at West Brom. Look, everybody, if you can't get a Premier League job, get a Championship job with parachute payments. If you know, that's the next best thing to a Premier League job, isn't it? For sure, in terms of what managers seem to want when they're applying for jobs and where they are being considered. Mick McCarthy. Well, I think there's a certain job up in the northeast as well at Sunderland that might attract a few similar names, even though they're a league apart. If it's throwing somebody in there till the end of the season, if it is a Warnock or a McCarthy, and it's just a charismatic, experienced guy just to do till the end of the season, I don't know. You're then in the same boat all over again. Remember Bournemouth and Jonathan Woodgate last season as well. Ranieri, Brian Robson, he's been out for a while, hasn't he? Steve Clark was brilliant. Season after we finished 17th, we're generally poor. Chris Hughton, they're all going to get a mention here. Not great with Forest, did a brilliant job with the other Albion. We're talking Brighton there. It's a quick bish bash bosh though at West Brom. I would suggest it's either someone who can win the playoffs this season, which would mean a manager who's very good in game and tactically in terms maybe stopping an opponent, which would be your McCarthy, wouldn't it? Very good in game, very good at setting up to keep a clean sheet and seeing where you go from that. And maybe with Dean Garner, Robinson, Carlin Grant, Andy Carroll, Daryl DK when he gets back, maybe. Or is it a season and a half job? And look, get in the playoffs and see what you can do this season. But next season, the jump down from year 1 to year 2 parachutes is not half as bad as the jump from year 2 to year 3. And look, they don't even get the year 2, year 3 jobs. Hope West Brom are not looking at Nathan Jones. If I were Nathan Jones, I'd stick with Luton because he seems to do 10 times better than than any other job. Guys, I won't read your comment out if you just say no to a manager. You've got to tell me why or put who you would want instead. I talk a ranker. Daniel Farker's come up a few times. You just don't know what deal he signed with. Where is Krasnodar? It's Russia, with the Russians there. Paul Warren, there you go. Maybe he gets a chance. Gets a lot of teams promoted from League One. Let's face it, not a lot of teams. Gets Rotherham promoted a lot of times from League One. I think he's top of the table as well. Chris Coleman, a mention in there. I think Farker would do well. If they appoint Terry, I'd be gutted as we'd already played them twice. We'd miss giving him his normal warm welcome. There you go. Dad's a trotter and seems to like Ian Everett. Lots of names coming in. Sky, David says, Enzo Maresca. He was that's a strange transfer, that back in the day. He went from Juventus, didn't he, to West Brom back in the day. Roy Keane, Paul Cook, Rafa's done the Championship, Jose, and we think Paul Cook's been linked quite heavily with going back to Chesterfield. So his stockers, that's what managing Ipswich will do for you, won't it? Keep your comments coming. Some brilliant suggestions here. You would think with Nathan Jones. Hello, Brian, as well. You might have seen Shaylee today, mightn't you, Brian? She's down there. Bless her, going to an appointment. You would think Nathan Jones would just stick with Luton now. But hey, managers are ambitious and strange creatures, aren't they? Do you jump at the chance? Kate needs to be someone that the players will believe in and listen to. That wasn't foul. Well, clearly, yeah, that's a fair comment, isn't it? Whichever manager they get may well struggle to implement their style of play this season due to the transfer window. And that's why Ron Gourlay has got this tricky choice, hasn't he, in respects of if it is someone who's going to implement a specific style that's quite different to Big Val. Let's be fair, most people's styles are different to Big Val. That's not saying his style's good, bad, indifferent. It was good for Barnsley. It was not good for West Brom. They've only got 17 games and potentially 3 playoff games. 20 games tops if they're going to get it done this season. And as much as people don't like those experienced names are the ones that can batten down the hatches and win a playoff tie, maybe when they're not favourites. Let's have a look. A lot of good managers doing well in League One. Again, would they give the keys to somebody who was working in League One at the moment who maybe doesn't have the experience? And this is the big thing as well, is that good managers in jobs, you can't get them to jump. It tends to be somebody who's out of a job, and obviously they pay compensation. And from what you guys are saying in the chat, gave a 4-year deal, which is going to have been very, very expensive to get out of, indeed. Any more comments on this? We're reacting to the news that West Brom have sacked Valérien Ismaël. We've kind of gone through the history of that, where it went wrong. Lots of names being linked. And look, we don't know what they want. Do they want someone to take it to the end of the season and try and win the playoffs? They're a long way back from the automatics. And obviously with Bournemouth's recent strengthening in Blackburn and QPR's form, maybe they ain't catching up. But what would be the smart thing to do? In fact, let's put that into the chat right now. Tell me, what would you do? Would you put somebody in to try and win the playoffs this season? Or would you put somebody in terms of a 18-month job and working on it right up until the end of those parachute payments at the end of next season for West Brom? Remember, it gets harder next season. We don't know who's going to be coming down, but the likelihood is 3 of 4 teams, Burnley, Watford, Norwich, Newcastle, will be joining, and they will be strong in terms of resource and club size at Championship level. You guys are suggesting the long-term idea, which means that if West Brom lose in the playoffs, they've just got to swallow it, or they don't make the playoffs, they've just got to swallow it this season. Overwhelmingly, you guys are saying long-term appointment. Couple of people looking at the short-term fix, but yeah, we'll see. I suppose from a West Brom point of view, they've just got to make it very, very clear when they hire the guy, look, he gets next season as well, obviously, depending on things going all right. I think you have to look at someone who's capable of both. I mean, that's the best case scenario. Is that person available is the thing, isn't it? Long term, can't see them beating Blackburn or Bournemouth. Maybe so. Nuno, would he come back down? He's had one season in the Championship, and okay, in his one season in the Championship, he had Willy Bolly, Ruben Neves, and Diogo Jota, didn't he? So he had by far the best squad and one of the best. He had Champions League sort of ready players, didn't he? At that point, so. There we go. Rico, as a West Brom fan, I'd rather look at the 18-month job. If we go up through the playoffs, we get about 6 points next season. Well, yeah, fair point. Indeed. Considering our form and difficulties on and off the field, a short-term approach would be very risky. As I always say, half pedantically, but half truthfully, a gamble is a gamble, and it's a good gamble if you win, isn't it? That's the only thing. But from what you guys are saying, you don't make West Brom favourites, even if there's a little upsurge and, you know, they go into the playoffs in a little bit better form. Long term is 26 weeks at West Brom. Oh, dear. Despicable from Claire in the chat there. Balboa guy from where they are, and they can't waste the chance. Got to push for playoffs. Farke. It just depends what sort of deal Daniel Farke has signed with Krasnodar, and could they possibly get him out? He's obviously... Jukanovic isn't that far behind in terms of recent promotions. Obviously, the last promotion... Oh, I suppose he is, actually, because both of Daniel Farke's promotions with Norwich have come since Slav got promoted with Fulham. So his were 14-15 and 17-18, weren't they? His two promotions. Give it Benjamin Bloom till the end of the season. God, imagine how bad I would be. Iron, if I'm not pronouncing your name incorrectly there, give me the deal. If it's £1 million, I'll do it till the end. Actually, no, I'll do it for a lot less than that. But there you go. Go short term. Fortune favours the brave indeed. Right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We have been reacting to the news that West Brom have fired Valérien Ismaël, and Ron Gourlay has been announced full-time. He was consulting there, but full-time now as the CEO at West Brom. It's been short and sweet for Big Val. We wish him well. Obviously, we don't like to see anybody failing in life, do we? But fail... Unfortunately, he has, and he's in, out, shake it all about, and gone from West Brom already. We will, no doubt, be back on the channel reacting to a new manager coming in at West Brom. But in the meantime, yes, we will leave it at that. Thank you all for joining me and jumping on. Before you go, yeah, David, you're right. Before you go, hit the like button. Draw as many people to our stream as possible. And if you're watching after the fact, get involved in the comments. Who do you want and why? I'm not so much interested in who you don't want. I'm interested, or if you don't want someone, I'm interested in why you don't want them. I'm far more interested in who you think would be a good fit. Thank you all for watching. I'll play the advert at the end and I'll flash up your shout outs and your thank yous. I can see a few of them coming in now. Guys, I won't be around tonight. I'm working elsewhere. If you're expecting any kind of watch along tonight, we will be about with the preview show tomorrow, though. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Hit like before you go. That is our reaction to Valérien Ismaël, who has been fired by West Brom. Thanks for watching. Over and out. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button to see more videos from this channel. Hit the subscribe button, and to be notified every time we upload, ring the bell for those notifications to come through on your device. If you really want to support the channel and me as a content creator, I will be eternally grateful if you head over to the merch store and grab something, or support over on Patreon, patreon.com/Benjamin Bloom. Thank you for your time. Go and watch another video.